I'm not ready as usual, but ready to go. I've talked about being a stutterer from the very beginning. Now, it's something I lived with. Does anyone here remember my series on things I've learned on the job? Mm-hmm. For that? Oh, yeah. I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to start it today on my trip, if you will, as a stutterer from age 5. Now, a lot of times, and this is very common, the stuttering starts at about age 5. No one knows why. Now, before that, I was a talker. I would talk a mile a minute. I would talk about anything. And I would drive my parents nuts as well as my relatives, especially at weddings. I was just, then all of a sudden this started. Now, there were a lot of theories in the family. Well, it's because you're bilingual, and because you're bilingual, your mind isn't able to process. Well, that wasn't it. Now, it started again in kindergarten at age 5. And as I was going through kindergarten, the advice that came from my parents was, just don't talk. Don't say anything. Obviously, it had been a long time since they'd been in kindergarten. So, went through the first year of kindergarten, went to summer school, and I thought I would use that strategy back in the top. What ended up happening is the teacher thought I didn't understand English. So she brought in a little kid who was also bilingual, who would translate for me. Right? This lasted about a week. Now, she was explaining something and then asked the question in the classroom, and I answered it. And her eyes got big and she says, "You speak English?" I said, "Well, of course I do. Who said I didn't? Who told you I didn't speak English?" So I then started like, okay, I'll talk now. I'll have to talk. But this went on. This issue went on for years, going through kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. It was just something I dealt with and something that the school system dealt with. Now, in the 70s, what happened in the 70s, in the mid-70s? You know, the Department of Education, Federal Department of Education came in, and they started supplying speech therapists. Now, in the early days, speech therapy was to a doctor in the 1700s, Lovelady. There was no science behind it. It was very new. So I wouldn't say it was worthless, but it was kind of a good start. For me, it was very frustrating because they started off with, okay, hogid, may, mon, nut, tone, voice, and it would drive me nuts because that just wasn't my natural speech. But then finding out that John Wayne was a stutterer, and if you remember, he had a very monotone voice and he was very, very slow. That worked for him, obviously. But this went on, the speech therapy, from like age 10 till high school. So in high school, there was the speech therapist said, okay, you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. So we're going to create a crutch. We're going to increase your vocabulary. So, because as a stutterer, you know well in advance when you're going to block on a word. I can't explain it. It's almost like if you look at a marquee and you have these words coming up and you know that word is going to be a problem. So she taught me how to change that word with something equivalent, which worked for a while. The problem is, if you can imagine having a conversation with somebody and having to think about, okay, I see this word coming, I'm going to have to switch it with something else, causes such mental gymnastics that it's like 5 minutes I was exhausted in a conversation. So this went on for, I would say, decades. Through work, I took a job in IT, so I didn't have to talk a whole lot, except in meetings, and so there was the occasional meeting, but I was able to function. And everyone around me knew, and everyone around me, for the most part, was very kind and understanding. There were some that, well, I'll go there later. But as an adult, going through this, and for me, I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to have to live with this. I was looking for other speech therapy. Who remembers the Y2K thing, the panic of Y2K, everything's going to die. I worked in a place where they wanted to keep the IT staff. So they gave us a bonus. If we stayed through Y2K, we got a bonus. Good for me, I like that. And I met with the guy who was world renowned in speech therapy. Met him in the group session in Philadelphia. And he kind of had the idea of, if you continue to speak, if you continue to breathe out, you're not going to stutter. Now, most stutterers, I'll say all stutterers who sing don't stutter. Big mystery to me. I still don't understand it. But it is, if you can continue to let air out, your vocal cords are not going to freeze and you're not going to stutter. So that's the first time I heard that. It worked, but you had to work at it. It took a lot of practice, and I kind of let that go. But it was better. So years later, see the red, thank you. Years later, and this will be my next speech, I met a speech therapist here in Colorado Springs who had the key. And then, of course, Toastmasters, who gave me the venue to practice what I learned. Thank you.